Recording in progress. So, hello everybody, and I would love to welcome to Textile Skills Centre Tea and Chat Emma Wilson, who is a freelance print designer, and she's going to talk a bit about, a lot about herself and what she does and how she became a freelance print designer and who she works for. If you have any questions, can I ask you to write them in the chat, and we will ask the questions either at appropriate moments, or if you want to hang on and wait until the end of her presentation, which will be about 15 minutes long, we will then ask the questions then. And you'll also have an opportunity at the end to ask her whatever questions you want. So I'd just love to hand over to Emma Wilson.
Hi everyone, thanks so much for having me. It's really great to be here. I've just put together a few images of my work on some slides, which I'm going to share now. So I'm just going to share my screen. There we go. Hope everybody can see that and hear me okay. So yes, as I said, yeah, I hope you find this all useful. I'm just going to talk a little bit about my work and what I do and the processes and everything. So I hope that you find it really useful, and do feel free to ask any questions that you want to ask me at the end, and I'll do my very best to answer them. So yeah, as Dawn said, I'm Emma Wilson. I have a freelance print design business called Emma Wilson's Designs. So just to start, a little bit about me. I work full-time as a freelance print designer, as I've already said. I work from home in my little home studio that I'm in at the moment. I design mostly prints for women's wear fashion. I create prints with all my original artwork, and I work on a huge variety of styles, including florals, animal prints, paisleys, textures, abstract designs, and so many others as well. My designs have been bought by brands all around the world, as well as suppliers and mills, and I've had prints feature in lots of different stores, including some of those listed there on the screen. Sorry, a little bit about my background. I graduated from Nottingham Trent University in 2018, and I specialised in print design while I was there. Absolutely loved my time at uni, but one of the highlights was actually taking a year out before my final year and doing a year in industry. I've worked as an intern at a few different print studios in London and in New York, which led to a job at a print design studio in London after I graduated. I worked there for 2 years as an in-house print designer as part of a team, and then I became a full-time freelancer in April 2020 when the lockdown started. So the easiest way to explain my design business is to explain the sort of two sides that there are. So I have two sides to my print design business, which I split my time between. I'm represented by a London print design studio, and I also have my own client work. So as part of the studio, I'm one of a few different experienced designers, and we're all led by an art director. The work involves producing groups of designs, usually 4 to 6 designs, under the same kind of concept. We produce files in digital format, usually in Photoshop, that become part of a seasonal and ever-changing collection that's sold online and all over the world. They sell to various different brands, suppliers, mills in LA, New York, London, Turkey, Japan, South Africa, Australia. So lots of different markets, which is really exciting. Each of us designers at the studio, we have our own style and handwriting. What's really good is we have full creative control over what we design and how much we design. So that's really great, because we're not set in one particular style or sort of type of print. You can really diversify what you do, which is really exciting. We do pay a lot of attention to catwalks and trends and different seasons, as this is where a lot of our inspiration comes from, and quite often this is what the customers are asking for, the collections that gets shown to. So we're always looking at seasons and trends, but we also try to produce those really classic timeless designs that sort of go outside trends. So they're always wanted, you know, the sort of standard timeless prints that you see all the time in shops, and they're really sought after as well. So yeah, this design side of my business is commission based, and I receive a one-off commission for every design that I sell. Whereas on the flip side, the other half of my design business is client work. So this is very different, even though I'm essentially producing the same thing, the same end product being a digital layered Photoshop file. But this is really different because I receive specific design requests and briefs from the client directly. Therefore, the print designs are tailored to their individual needs, their aesthetic, their target market. Whereas when I do work for the studio, I don't necessarily know who the print's going to be bought by in the end, or who the print will eventually be worn by. I have an idea, but I don't know for sure. So the client work's really great because I know who's going to end up buying it. So I can sort of tailor it more to their exact needs. And I really like doing this because I like working to an exact brief. I like that sort of personal communication, that back and forth between the client and myself. I like making those like little tweaks and just making sure that they're really happy with it. I like paying lots of attention to detail and producing like a meaningful design for them. I find that this work often pushes me out of my comfort zone. And I design things that I wouldn't normally choose to design otherwise. I get design requests where I think, oh gosh, you know, that's a bit different for me. Can I do that, etc. But it's always really good to push myself and try new things. It's always a learning curve, and it's really exciting to just explore the possibilities of what you can actually do. So yeah, there's a lot more variety to this side of my work, but I really like having both sides to my business. Sorry, I forgot to mention there, for my client work, I'm paid differently to the studio as well. For client work, I charge a flat day rate, which I charge on completion of the print design. So I was just trying to think about the best way to explain my sort of the whole design process. And so I found an example of a print that I sold, I think in May 2020. And I found it in a shop about a year later. So the third image there is the design in the shop. So this sort of shows the whole process, sort of kind of from start to finish, the artwork to the design to the end product. So yeah, the artwork, this is obviously very example of a very simple piece of artwork, just painted in black gouache. But I produce artwork through lots of different mediums. I switch between watercolor, gouache, acrylic paint, as well as drawing with markers and fine liners. And sometimes I even create my artwork on Procreate, which is a really good piece of software, which allows you to draw on your iPad using an Apple Pencil. And the possibilities are literally endless with Procreate. So I really enjoy using that software as well. So once I've got my artwork, I scan and digitize it and start creating all of my designs in Photoshop. I usually create my design straight away into a full repeat. But sometimes if I think this is going to restrict my creativity, I do this at the end. But I find more often than not, at the moment, customers and clients are asking for the designs to be put into repeat for them. So I normally just start by putting them into repeat straight away. Where am I here? Sorry. Once I finish the design, I quite often tweak the colors, like right at the end. This is because quite often clients, they ask for multiple colorways after the design itself has been approved. They want to see multiple colorways. So I always like to make sure that I can edit the colors at the end of the design process if I need to. So that sort of shows the whole sort of process, the actual design process. But before I even start painting, before I even pick up a paintbrush, there is a lot of like groundwork that goes in, and the work that goes on in the background regarding research. I'm always researching and looking for inspiration. I'm looking at what's on the catwalks, what's in stores, looking for new ideas and techniques and styles. Obviously at the moment, it was quite hard during the lockdown to sort of get out into shops and look, but obviously we're surrounded by inspiration on Instagram and on Pinterest, so I'm always looking there for new ideas, which yeah, I'm always on the lookout. Even when someone's wearing something on the street, I'm like, oh, clock that, do something with that. So yes, I like to create mood boards for each group that I design, because I find this helps keep my work original. Quite often a client will send me one picture and they say, we want something like this, and I say, okay, but I'm going to put it into a mood board and draw some other ideas in as well and put them together, so that I'm combining you know, 2 or more ideas, taking ideas from multiple sources of inspiration to create something new and original. I also find that by doing mood boards, this helps me to plan a colour palette, helps me to think about the amount of colours that I'm going to put into each design, and the scale as well. And I like to know quite a clear idea of all these things before I even start painting or drawing, because it helps me to design with intention, and knowing, sort of having that end look, end use, and customer sort of in mind, really helps to sort of keep me focused with what I'm doing. So I'm not just designing for the sake of it. Another form of research that I do, actually, though, that completely contradicts my previous point, is sometimes I like to paint or draw quite freely as a form of experimenting. I think at university, my tutors called this like visual research. So just sort of loosening up, seeing what happens, and trying, you know, a new type of drawing, new style, not getting too much in your head, not overthinking it too much, and just seeing what happens. And actually some of my more successful prints have come from this sort of idea of not overthinking the artwork. So there's 2 kind of approaches there. But more often than not, I find that it helps to definitely have some kind of idea of what you want to create before you start. And then I just, on this last slide here, I've just put together some images of some artwork that I've created, just so you can see some more examples of the kind of things that I produce. Just while I talk about one of the last things that I was asked to cover, which was how I find work as a freelance designer. To be perfectly honest, this is one of the harder parts about being a freelance designer, and it's something that I have to set time aside for, to find new work, and stay on top of the workload that I have. I've got a large amount of my client work through contacts and friends that I made at university who have gone on to work in the industry, and found that they need a freelance print designer. So those relationships I built at university have been a really good way of forming professional contacts. So that's really, really important. I also keep up to date with a lot of freelance work websites where I've found individuals seeking freelance print designers. So that's another way of getting in touch with people and finding new work. And also the obvious, but staying on top of job posting websites such as LinkedIn, and Fashion Worky is a really good one for textile design industry and fashion. You often find freelance job postings on there as well. The thing about client work is it can fluctuate a lot, and it's very normal to find yourself with either very little or lots of work all on at the same time. So it's very important to manage your clients' expectations, balance your time, and just find a good balance. So while the client work can fluctuate, the work that I do for the studio is sort of continuous. So if I'm not busy with lots of client work, then I can catch up on my studio work. So overall, it's just about finding a good balance with the 2 sides of the business. So I do hope that you found all of that useful. Sorry if I spoke too quickly. Please do feel free to ask any questions that you may have. If there's any in the chat box, I will have a look.
I've got quite a few, Emma. So if you don't mind, hi, I'm Rachel. Yeah. Sorry. If you don't mind, I'll read a few of these out for you, and then you can just relax and just think about your answers. So obviously we do have some students on the group with us this evening. So there are students present, which this is fantastic for them to listen to where they can go on to. We do have a large amount of teachers on here as well. So a couple of questions that are coming through, some kind of maybe more student orientated questions would be, where do you get your trend ideas from? And do you prefer client or studio work?
Okay, so where do I get my trends from?
Yeah, your trend ideas. So you mentioned you use Pinterest. Are you a WGSNer, or is there anywhere else that you look at?
When I was at university, I looked at WGSN a lot because it was available to me, but I know it's a subscription service, so I don't actually have it. I would love to have it, but it's very, very expensive. So yeah, sometimes that's not available to me at the moment. But yeah, I certainly, when the catwalks come out, it's, you know, I'm there at my computer looking through all the catwalks as they're happening, trying to identify similarities, trends emerging, and that sort of thing. I also, yeah, looking at Pinterest is really good. There's certain other websites that sort of help identify trends. I think it's Pattern Bank. They do little trend packs which you can look at, and yes, but generally I get my trend ideas from sort of me looking at the catwalks, looking at shops, like, yeah, going into shops and seeing what's popular, what Zara are doing, you know, just to sort of get an idea of what's popular. Yeah, and as for if I prefer client or studio work, I would say I prefer the actual process of doing client work as a process, because it's much more it's more meaningful, I think, because somebody's coming to you saying we want this, and you're just fulfilling that brief. Whereas sometimes with the studio work, I love it, but sometimes you do a lot of work that doesn't actually sell, and sometimes that can be slightly not disheartening, but sort of you think, okay, you know, why didn't that sell? Whereas when you're fulfilling a brief, you know that design is going to end up being used.
Yeah, it's exactly what they want.
Sort of, yeah, more valuable use of your time.
Amazing, thank you. So we've got a question from Eve, who's a teacher, I think, Eve, aren't you? And Eve says that, is there a simple way to create a repeat from a design? She's tried YouTube tutorials and working by hand, but she can't quite seem to get them to match up properly. Now, obviously, I understand this would probably be like a full tutorial if you were to go through it exactly, but any tips on repeat designs?
Yes, so yeah, this was something that I used to find really hard before, and I used to do a very sort of long-winded way with it in Photoshop. I would normally do a design not in repeat, and then somebody would ask for me to put it into repeat, and I would have to go back and put it in repeat. But the latest version of Photoshop has a really good feature, which the name of has gone right out of my head, but it allows you to literally work in repeat. So as you're working, you can see the full repeat happening around your canvas. It's really frustrating. I can't remember the name of it right now.
But I believe it's called Stand and Repeat. I've just found the Photoshop link. I'll drop it in the chat box.
Okay, yes. Yeah, it's a new feature. I think it's on one of the more recent Photoshop updates, and I do all my repeats on that now. It makes it so much easier. Yeah.
Amazing. Sorry.
Can I just ask a question then?
Yes.
Is that all right? No, because I don't use Photoshop. In my day, it was done by hand. So what type of repeats do you use mostly, Emma? Is it a block repeat, a half drop repeat? I used to use half drop mostly.
Yeah, mostly I either use, as you say, block or half drop. I'd say I more often use a block repeat because a lot of my work is sometimes very small scale, like ditzy stuff, so a block repeat is absolutely fine. But yes, sometimes I do a half drop repeat as well.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, sorry, to the next question. I'm just scrolling back. The next question is Nita, who says, also, which package would you use to help secondary kids to repeat online? Or is that on a line, Nita? Sorry, I don't know if I've read that right. Don't know if she's there. Where are you, Nita? I've lost you.
Yeah, maybe if you could explain.
I'll come back to that one in a second. She's Oh, hold on. She said, I don't have Photoshop in school, they just learn an online version. So, so bearing that in mind, she would say, which package would you use to help secondary kids if they're using if they're trying to do repeat work online?
Yeah, Photoshop, I know is incredibly expensive as well. It's ridiculous. But Procreate, I don't know if they do have access to iPads at all, but Procreate is much cheaper. It's just a one-off payment. I think it's like £10, and you can also do repeats on Procreate. So maybe that would be a slightly better way to do it if they don't have Photoshop. I think I'm trying to think when I was at secondary school, we didn't have Photoshop either, but I don't think we did do repeats. So can't be much else there, sorry.
All right, don't worry. There is another question. Did you do textiles at school? Was one of the questions.
Yes, I did. I did textiles GCSE. I think thinking back, we did textiles as like part of art and design like classes up until like year 9, and I just remember really like taking to textiles, and my teacher saying, "Oh, I think you should take it as a GCSE," so I did. And I remember really enjoying it, but I remember it being much more like fabric based and like material like manipulation than print design. So print design wasn't something I sort of came to until I was at college.
Do you ever get to do, this is my own question now, I'm being selfish. Sorry for jumping the queue. Do you ever get to do any hands-on printing anymore? Is it all just on computer aided design, or do you actually still get to put, paint to paper and things like that and do some sketchy versions? Do you ever get to do that anymore, or screen printing or anything?
So yeah, I mean, I paint all my artwork, by hand, in my little home studio. I've got one here, sort of, paint things just, on paper with the paints, which is nice because sometimes, I used to paint directly onto the screen on Photoshop a lot, but I really miss that like material like contact, so I started painting by hand again. I haven't screen printed since I was at university, and I really loved it then. Really did like hand screen printing, but I think the way that the industry is at the minute, most designs are digitally printed, so that's a bit of a shame because I do really miss that side of working. Like it was really great to get your hands dirty and everything, but yes. When I worked at the studio in London, they used to sublimation print all the samples of our print designs, sort of fabric swatches with a heat press. So you did get to sort of see your designs on fabric, which was really nice. But now I'm freelance and I'm remote and I work from home, and they all go, it goes into the studio in London and they print it and I don't get to see it. So yes. I hope that answers that question.
Can I ask, Emma, on top of that, I think I saw it there, I'm not quite sure. Do you use gouache to do all your painting?
Yeah, I do use gouache. I like it because it's you get a nice flat finish, and I use gouache mostly if I want to do artwork that I'm going to colour separate and make into a flat colour in Photoshop, because it's much easier to edit than watercolour or acrylic.
What is gouache? Am I the only one sat here thinking, what is it?
It's
like
not changed. We used to use it 40 years ago, so it's just a paint, Rachel. It's just a type of paint.
Is it one I need to try?
Rachel, it's a bit like poster paint.
Oh
yes, it is, Julia. Yes, it feels like the same consistency as poster paint. Very dissimilar to watercolor, put it that way. It's not like watercolor. It's very opaque. The opaque's the right word?
Yeah, it's opaque. Yeah, and you get like that. You get very flat
strong color
finish. Strong color.
You can mix them, but you get like a strong color with it, and it's very flat.
Yeah.
Good for designing, I assume.
Yeah, it's very good. Yeah, no, it's a good paint.
Amazing.
And it's water based, so it comes out your brushes much easier than acrylics.
Good.
Yeah.
Right, so there is another question in the group that is, you said you prefer Procreate to Photoshop or Illustrator. Do you find in industry that Adobe CAD is more preferred, or would they be happy to use Procreate, for example?
Yeah, I actually do use Photoshop all the time. Yeah, Photoshop and Procreate are my sort of my go-tos. I don't often use Illustrator. I think that every sort of print design job that I've ever seen sort of requires Photoshop knowledge. So yeah, definitely I think it is more preferred, but I do know that some suppliers use other software other than Photoshop for sort of like putting things into production, sort of that's probably much more advanced software that you wouldn't be able to get on a you know, that you wouldn't normally use. So I think yeah, Photoshop is really great. It does pretty much everything that you need it to do. Definitely use it all the time.
Amazing, thank you. I think that is all of the questions from the chat box, but if I've missed anyone, please do just flag me down. I think I'm just going back through. The only other one was Nikki's with, do you go to Premier Vision? I think I missed that.
Yes.
Didn't I?
Yeah, I saw that. I've got that question. Yeah, the studio that I work for, they used to go to Premier Vision every year. I think the last couple of years, I don't actually think that's happened because of COVID, but I think that it's back on this year, and so I don't go personally, but the sales representatives for the studio that I work for, I know that they go. And they do several other trade shows as well. I think there's one in Italy later on in the year as well. So now I know that they're really popular, and I'd love to go one year just to have a look because it's meant to be amazing.
I was asking because I know it's a university school trip, but it's not very often a school trip. And I just wondered if they're now letting in younger students. That was all.
I was going to say, is it in London? Where is Premier Vision?
It's in
Paris.
Yeah, I was going to say, the one in there.
There is one in London called the London Print Design Fair that I think is still happening. It's at the Business Design Centre in Islington.
What was that one again, sorry?
The London Print Design Fair.
London Print Design Fair.
Yeah, and that's in Islington in London, and I've been to that one, and I worked there as an intern actually for a couple of days, which was a really good experience. And I think you can just go in there. If you think you can get a pass to visit, and I would recommend going because it's a good insight into sort of what happens and what goes on.
I was just thinking about you ladies on school trips and things like that. But it's a good school trip to go to. That's different.
School trips are still like,
yeah, I know,
at the minute.
But hopefully one day they will be coming back.
Yeah. Exactly. Let's hope so.
Any other questions? I think I've got everyone in the chat box now. But if anyone's brave enough or wants to ask any questions, please feel free. Whilst we have Emma, we should call the knowledge.
Do feel free to message me on Instagram if you think of any other questions that you would like to I answered as well.
I've just followed you, Emma, on Instagram.
Lovely, thank you.
Please follow us back.
Yes, I will.
All of you follow us back.
In fact, all of you, please. I have targets to get, and I keep telling Dawn I've got another 10. I've got another 10. I'm doing all these targets. So please look us up, Textile Skills Centre on Instagram. And I do post there regularly.
You haven't mentioned the Pinterest page we have as well, which has got loads and loads of ideas.
Emma just mentioned that she uses Pinterest. If you've not gone onto my Pinterest page, I do have, and I do that sitting on a train or wherever. I try to add onto that regularly, and I have them in quite good boxes for school. So I've like artists or GCSE, an A-level one, a fashion illustration one. So I do kind of separate them for teaching purposes. So if you follow us on Pinterest, please have a look. And let me know if there's other pages that you'd like. Oh, well done. Thank you. Yeah. Let me know if there's it's a bit like what they do on Breakfast TV. See if we can get 1,000 people to follow people. Have a look and tell me if there's another Pinterest page that you'd like particularly. I've got a weaving one, a fabric manipulation one. I probably need to do a few more and separate
You mean the boards?
The boards, yeah. So let me know if there's one in particular. And I just spend my free time sort of looking. I get a Pinterest thing every day and just flicking through and putting them on there.
You have free time?
Yeah, I don't teach like you, Rachel. But I noticed Emma uses it. So, and I always thought my student, I used to direct my students to it all the time. I thought it was the greatest place to go. So yeah, have a look at that too. But please follow me on Instagram. Well, not me personally, but I run Instagram. So that'd be very nice. Thank you.
So thank you ever so much, Emma. That was really, really brilliant. I enjoyed
Can I
that.
take one more question in? Sorry,
Oh, go
just
on
one
then.
more. Because otherwise, Isa will never forgive us. Which company do you use to get printed samples made up to, see your prints on fabric? Do you use any companies to get them done?
When I worked at the studio in London, they used to use the Silk Bureau, which are really, really good for silk. But I know you have to order by the meter with them, so that's quite large quantities. But when I was a student and I was doing my final year and I was ordering digital print samples, I used to use Contrado. And they have a digital print service, and they've got so many different fabrics, and they do quite a quick turnaround as well, and they don't have like a minimum order or anything. And so and there was really good quality. I would recommend. Do you want me to put the link in?
I'm doing it. I'm literally doing it as you're talking, but I missed the last one.
Amazing.
What was the last one?
Oh, sorry, Contrado.
Contrado, thank you.
Sandy Link has said that Contrado is brilliant and that students get discounts. So definitely look at that.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's a good one.
40%.
Oh my goodness, that's huge.
Give us a discount code.
That's huge.
Excellent.
So,
sorry, I am popping all the links on here as well, guys. So if any of you haven't looked at the chat box, literally everything we've been talking about, Emma's been talking about, if you scroll back through, there's all the links to the trend information, the print events that Emma's been to, and everything else as well.
Right, I think we're coming to the end. So just a quick recap, the next tea and chat is on the 1st of March, and that's all about careers, to set you up for Careers Week. Loads of resources. We've still got, and it's being updated, the free resource on the downloadable free resource on the website. Also, there's loads of other resources. There isn't a resource for this particular tea and chat because it was just we just thought we would invite some industry people in as a sort of like thing up to Careers Week. So there isn't a download, but we are recording this, which at some point I will work out how to put it up onto YouTube and get this YouTube channel going.
I know I keep saying I'll do it, but I will do it.
Between us, Rachel, we will do it. Also, the student competition deadline, for those of you who missed it at the very beginning, the deadline is the 31st of Jan. And you can enter live work because it's not going on a website or anything until much later in the year. If it's free,
the teacher gets a prize as well as the student. So the teacher gets free courses. The student gets money from specialist crafts, and second and third places get goodie bags. And everyone gets a certificate, everybody that enters, which I think the kids love. So it will be a standard thing that will be sent to you to fill their name out, but it's everyone will get a certificate for entry. So please do send them. It's so easy. All you've got to do is take a photograph of the student's work and email it to us. It's a no-brainer to enter, really.
So deadline 31st of January. The next few workshops for this term, we've got about 5 or 6 or 7 even workshops that we've lined up. This weekend it's Leicester, this Saturday it's Leicester, following weekend it's with Rachel in Marlow.
You want to meet me face to face?
I'm sat here doing heat shibori, in case you wonder why I'm looking down. Yeah, these are free samples. Because we can't do them on the day, so I'm sat here doing heat shibori workshops for everybody to take home with them as I sit here.
We have good tea and coffee as well, made by a Yorkshire person.
Only the best. So then we've also got workshops lined up in Nottingham, Wetherby, which is near Leeds, where else? Dudley, Manchester and Maidstone. So please do, if you and any NQTs, ECTs, newly trained or trainees that you know of, we will be giving discounted courses, access to these courses. So please do get in touch with me if you want to attend one of our face-to-face courses. Don't forget, all our online courses are still up and all the free resources. Also, Heidi and Nikki have been working on the mentorship program. So if you want to become a mentor, or you would like to be a mentee, be mentored, then please do go to the website. I'm hoping that it's all fixed now and that everything's working, because we have had a few teething problems with that. Otherwise, is there anything else?
Yes, I have.
Go on,
Sorry,
Nikki.
Rachel. If you know of anybody or yourselves that is, and Emma, you included, if anybody in industry that is doing any sort of textile career, whether that's at uni or post-uni, I still am looking for people to do videos for Careers Week.
Especially boys.
Especially boys, yeah, I'm trying so hard to get some more boys. So if you know of anybody that would like to do, and it is literally a 4-5 minute video, less than that even, you'd be surprised what you can do in 3 minutes.
We could maybe put a demo one up, Nikki. Perhaps I'll speak to you about that. We could do a little demo one.
Yeah, so I can send a set of questions, and all they do is literally record themselves with a set of questions. It's very, very simple to do. We just wanted to try and get a few more people. And obviously we got a lot of our own contacts, which we've done, but I'd like to get a few more contacts. If anybody knows of anybody, that would be amazing. Yeah, just email me and I can get back to you. Thank you.
Rachel, you wanted to say something?
Yes, I'm just doing the classic. We do this off our own accord, and we are working entirely as volunteers. So I'm going to drop a link in the chat box to ask if anybody is kind enough to donate to our cause through PayPal. We would much appreciate a penny, a pound, whatever you can give to support the cost of our Zoom account, our website, and the other things that we need to keep us going in order to keep these free things happening for you.
Thank you for that. I completely forgot to say all about that. I'm hopeless at remembering stuff like that.
You have us.
So just a really big thank you again, Emma. That was brilliant. It was lovely to hear you, and hopefully we will see you again.
Yeah.
Otherwise, everybody, thank you so much for coming, and hope to see you at the next event.
Thank you. Thanks, Emma.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. Thank you. No, thanks.